The second summer and the following winter passed without much change, except that both Roxy and Kulak gradually grew out of their playful ways. Roxy ran free all summer and spent the winter in her own private yard. Before the end of that second winter, Robert decided that he would go away to boarding school the next fall to enter the 10th grade. That meant that I would have to take over the care of Roxy. So, toward the end of the summer, I began helping her get used to my bringing her food. Soon after Robert left for school, the weather turned quite cold, and Roxy went into her little cottage for a nap. I closed the yard gate. Now we would see how well Roxy and I could get along. At first, Roxy didn't seem to like me very well. I could tell that she liked Robert better. Well, I thought, why not? He was her first love. But gradually Roxy accepted me as a fair substitute for Robert. I would sit down on the box in her yard and watch her eat. Soon she began coming over beside the box after lunch and allowing me to reach down and touch her. Then one day she even climbed up on my knee and let me scratch her back. That broke the ice. From then on, we were best friends. One fine day in early spring, about the time of Roxy's third birthday, one of our cows, a big red heifer, walked by the little cottage where Roxy was taking her afternoon siesta. I didn't see what happened, but later I could easily piece the story together. The cow decided a corner of the cottage, which was really just a big box, you remember, would be a good place to scratch herself. She, she pressed against a corner of the box and rubbed back and forth. Now, Roxy's cottage wasn't made to stand up against 1,000 pounds of heifer bones and muscle. When the cow's itch had been scratched enough, she walked away, leaving the box pushed out of shape and the back door ajar. Wouldn't you think that having your house shaken by a huge monster would wake you up? Well, almost nothing could wake Roxy from a nap. Not even a cow opening the door and taking a peek inside. But come the beautiful evening, with its twinkling stars and laughing moon, and any young raccoon wakes up, the beckoning night breezes bring sounds and smells that invite adventure. Who wouldn't be ready to find something exciting to do, especially when the back door is open to the outside world? How long it took for Roxy to explore our yard, the sleeping dog and cats, the corral with its resting cows chewing their cuds, the fields and irrigation dishes, I don't know. Luis and I were fast asleep in our house. We had no idea that a masked bandit was roaming around outside. About midnight, we were awakened by a heavy thud on the roof above our bedroom. Then we heard the sound of little feet running from one end of the roof to the other, and dancing up and down with delight. Soon the dancing stopped, and we heard a new sound. There was a scrambling, a scratching, followed by a sharp snap. The prowler was lifting one end of a shingle and then allowing it to snap back. After a while, the noises stopped and we went back to sleep. After breakfast the next morning, I went out to see if I could solve the mystery of our night visitor. I set a ladder against the end of the house and climbed up to look at the roof. I couldn't see any clue, but I did notice that a tree limb hung closer to the roof than I had remembered. I guess new growth, with more twigs and leaves, had made it heavier. I climbed down and looked around the yard. Everything looked as peaceful as usual. Kulak, the cats, the cows all seemed happy and as they soaked up the warmth of the morning sun following a chilly night. Then I glanced at Roxy's pen. Where was Roxy? Usually she would be poking around by the gate, waiting for breakfast. Well, I said to myself, that's funny. I guess I'd better investigate. Front gate was closed and fastened. I couldn't see any holes in the fence or any tunnel under it. I walked slowly around the cage to the back. There it was. The mystery of the night visitor was solved beyond a doubt. Roxy had gotten out of her cottage by that open back door. Now she was completely free. What would I tell Robert? I could truthfully say that it wasn't my fault she had escaped. Besides, even if I could catch her, she might resist being put back into what I had been calling her private yard. But which was really a pen? Anyhow, I reasoned, why should I meddle any longer in her personal life? Allowing this family member the freedom to walk down any path of her choosing, or the right to leave her footprints on the bank of any ditch, that was one thing. But knowingly letting her starve to death or getting herself killed was something else. Would Roxy know where to find food? She'd been used to having her favorite menu handed to her whenever she wanted it. She didn't know about the cruel world of dogs, except for her friend Kulak. Traps, guns, and men wearing red hunting hats. But Roxy didn't intend to go wild. Only a few nights later, Luis heard another thud on the roof, followed by the sound of dancing feet. She got out of bed and went out to the porch with a flashlight. There, peering over the edge of the roof, was the familiar masked face with sharp black eyes, cocked ears, and pointed nose. Roxy, she called softly. The little lady ran quickly from eaves to gable and back. There was no mistaking her thoughts. Louise could almost hear her saying, "Where are the stairs? I want down." Roxy was never patient about waiting for things to happen. Up and down the roof she scampered again. Then, tiring of that game, she dashed to the other end of the roof and jumped to the overhanging limb. Down the trunk she whisked and bounded from the lawn to the porch. A few minutes later, she was eating her favorite dish of bread and milk with a raw egg mixed in. She became a regular visitor after that, inviting herself into the kitchen for dinner almost every night. Her meal finished, she would run about the room to make sure everything was just as she had left it. Time of night meant nothing to her. She had slept all day, and the night was young, and so was she. When we wanted to go to bed, we had to shove Roxy out the door and close it behind her. Being so rude to a guest made me feel bad, but she was young and I wasn't. There was a limit to the amount of nightlife I could take.